Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, joining us on the program. You know what? Before we get to the concussion settlement and what's going on here, the coaches and the vacancies here, I was going to ask you about what Bob McNair, that's the owner of the Houston Texans, where he came out and said, we're thinking about Jadeveon Clowney. First of all, what owner talks in January about what they're going to do with the number 1 overall pick, and what owner would actually tell you the truth of what they're considering doing?
We'd really love to trade down 4 or 5 spots with somebody who wants to come up and get Jadeveon Clowney. Hey, Atlanta, you've got a franchise quarterback. You need a pass rusher. Why don't you trade up with us, and then we can take a quarterback at number 6 and pick up some other stuff to address our other needs. I mean, it's so transparent. It's so obvious. They're not going to take Jadeveon Clowney. They need a quarterback. They desperately need a quarterback. And, unless they pull off a trade or get somebody in free agency, quarterback is their glaring need. They'd love to trade down and still get the quarterback they would take with the number 1 overall pick.
And you could send Jadeveon Clowney, to Atlanta, SEC country. They certainly need a defensive player, an impact player. But I didn't rule out putting him with J.J. Watt, when the Texans were on the clock with the number 1 pick. It just, I didn't think the owner would come out and say, you know what, we're thinking about pairing him with J.J. Watt. I know they need a quarterback. I just don't know if Bill O'Brien, who's going to join us next hour, is going to say, that quarterback is my franchise quarterback. Is it that, or is there a free agent out there that might be a better solution for the Texans?
The problem is there really aren't many/any free agents who ever become available that you make a franchise quarterback. There are teams that have franchise quarterbacks, and then there are the rest of the teams that are desperately searching for a franchise quarterback. And O'Brien has lived it at the NFL level, what it means to have a franchise quarterback, a guy like Tom Brady. That's how you become a consistent contender with a true franchise quarterback. And now that the rookie wage scale is in place, it's so much cheaper to roll the dice with the first overall pick on a guy who may be a franchise quarterback. And if it doesn't work out, you're not losing $50 million, and you're going to be back in position to draft a franchise quarterback again if it doesn't work out, because you're going to be at the top of the draft again.
Okay, how many franchise quarterbacks are there in this draft?
We don't know, and we won't know until they play at the NFL level. That's why you do your homework, you pick the guy that you like, and you roll the dice and hope you can make him a franchise quarterback. I mean, could it be Johnny Manziel? I love what the guy could do, but you look at how he got banged around by the Duke defense at the Chick-fil-A Bowl. He gets hit like that by an NFL team, and he's not going to live very long.
He's Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. Vikings-Browns are still open, those vacancies. Why are they still open?
Well, it could be that both teams are waiting for guys who are still coaching. Now, there's really momentum building toward Mike Zimmer becoming the next coach of the Vikings, but who knows whether that's true or not. Everybody thought Wisenhunt was going to get hired by the Lions. He got hired by the Titans. It could be that both teams are waiting for a guy like Adam Gase, the Broncos offensive coordinator. The Vikings already interviewed both of the Seahawks coordinators, Darrell Bevell and Dan Quinn, and there's that weird rivalry/connection between Minnesota and Seattle where they trade guys back and forth, sign guys back and forth. So who knows whether the Vikings are waiting for them. Both teams have been very tight-lipped. With the Browns, they're either being very, very diligent in their search or they don't quite know what they're doing or somewhere in between. But when they fired Rob Chudzinski after 1 year, a lot of us thought they knew exactly who they were going to hire. And that sense hasn't been projected the last couple of weeks.
We saw where the judge said, this concussion settlement, it's not enough. All right, so where are we going with this? What's this going to cost the owners?
Well, we don't know that it's enough. She needs more information so she'll be confident that the money that's earmarked, it's $765 million settlement. $675 million goes into this fund that is going to pay guys for up to 65 years if they develop at some point in the future a severe cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, ALS, etc. She's not confident based on the information that they've provided that the money will be there. And you know what? If the NFL is confident that there's going to be enough money there, all the NFL has to say is, we'll guarantee that if it runs out, we'll provide enough money to pay these claims in the future. If you're sure that what you've calculated is going to work, then stand behind it and say, we'll tie the hands of the owners 40 years from now who may have to pay more money. That seems like an easy fix. Maybe that's what she's hoping the NFL will do if these folks really do believe that enough money is going to be there from this settlement.
Is there a way that the weather could impact any other cold weather Super Bowls? Let's say it's bad.
Yeah, I think the NFL is going to keep rolling the dice unless and until there's a blizzard or a polar vortex. Isn't it funny how we hear these new weather terms every year or two that must have been around for decades, and we've never heard them before. I'd never heard of a polar vortex until last week. But if there's something really bad, a really bad outcome, then they just won't go back to a cold weather city open air, but they'll keep doing it until there's something like that. I mean, they haven't gone back to Atlanta in 15 years since the ice storm. Dallas is having a hard time, I think, getting another Super Bowl because of the ice storm there. But as long as it works, they'll keep doing it. And if it works in New Jersey, you unlock a whole new universe of cities that are going to start competing for the Super Bowl. Chicago, Denver,
Wait,
Washington.
but Mike, it's not Dallas's fault they had crappy weather.
Oh, I know, but it's their fault that they had no plan in place to deal with it.
That's true.
The plan was go hide under the bed and wait for it to melt.
Yeah, I was in Atlanta with that ice storm as well. That was a disaster. And it's really how I think what did Dallas have, like one snow truck or something
Yeah.
back then? But I can see I'm okay with a cold weather Super Bowl. I'm fine with it. But I'm not playing in it, and I'm not going to the game to watch it. So I didn't know if there could be a fallout that could mean we'll never do this again, or it could be if it's sort of good and sort of inclement, then we'll say yes, we loved it, and they're getting people talking about it. It's not just the matchup; it's going to be you're talking about everything from start to finish, to the halftime show, to the weather, quarterbacks, coaches, all of that. And I think the NFL has to eat this up.
Remember when the Eagles-Vikings game was moved 2 nights from our air on Sunday night because of the blizzard that came? That was after they'd picked New Jersey for this Super Bowl, and I asked the NFL, are you now having second thoughts about playing a Super Bowl outdoors in February in New Jersey? And the quote back to me was, we are the ultimate reality show. They love this. They love the coverage. They love the discussion. And look how cold it was in Green Bay 10 days ago. No one's saying, I'm never going back to another cold weather game at Lambeau Field. They'll fill the stadium wherever the Super Bowl is, and 150 million people will watch it, and it'll continue to be the biggest sporting event in the United States.
But part of the problem with this is that you don't have the diehards. If I'm in Green Bay shows up. But if I'm at the Meadowlands and you have San Francisco against Denver, how many of their fans, A, can get there, B, can afford the tickets? Therefore, you get people who aren't invested in these teams. You'll put up with a lot of nonsense. If your team's there, you'll stay through thick and thin. You'll fight the traffic. You'll sit in the weather. Problem is, you got a lot of spoiled people who have the money to be able to get these tickets, but they don't have the involvement, the investment, the loyalty in those teams to stay there. They're the ones that are going to be complaining. If Green Bay was here and their fans came in, they wouldn't complain about the weather. It's the people who aren't these fans of these teams because the fans can't get tickets.
And you know what? You raise a great point. Will the NFL care if there are 20,000 no-shows as long as people have paid for the tickets? Because you will have people who say, I'm just not going.
Yeah.
I'll go next year. I can afford to go whenever I want to go. I'll go next year instead when it's in Arizona. Will the NFL care if there are empty seats as long as those tickets are bought and paid for?
Thank you, Mike.
All right, see you, buddy.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com.